Last week at Talladega, Blaine Adams coasted to the win, quite literally, out of fuel, being pushed on by Daniel Knight as our race finished under caution. And what a fantastic race it was, with good battles, strategy, and major points implications. Can anyone catch championship leader Bradley Hawley in the last 4 races of the season? Or will he be able to stay out of trouble and hang on to his lead as we go to the concrete corridors of Dover? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 7 of the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series, sponsored by Diecast Kings. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Adam Lindgren, and joining me in the booth is Chris Foby. Our director tonight will be Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by the great Dougie Beard. Known as the Monster Mile, Dover is the fastest 1-mile circuit on the calendar. And to find out why Miles the Monster defends it with such ferocity, let's send you down to our track guide.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Global Sim Racing Channel. I'm Brian Yazek, taking you for a spin around Dover International Speedway in the GSRC Silverado. Dover is a whole lot of fun. It's definitely not your traditional 1-mile oval, so without further ado, here we go. Down the front stretch, going off into turn 1, you're going to use the brakes just a little bit, braking right about at that Dover sign on the wall. Let the truck set, back into the gas, then back off, because if you go into it too fast, you're going to push right up to that wall that's waiting for you on exit. Same into turn 3, brake at that insurance sign on the wall, let it float down, half throttle, 3/4 throttle, back to half, back to full, and out of the corner. Feels like you're getting rocket launched out of that corner. As the run progresses, you might see guys kind of do this sort of a line where they kind of diamond the corner off. Go in low, let it float up to the middle, and back off, because it really lets you get a good head of steam heading off the corners, and it keeps the truck a little bit more stable. Same in 3 and 4. Let it float up a little bit, find the bottom again, 3/4 gas, back into the throttle, coming out of that hole, out of turn 4, down the front stretch. And that completes your track guide around the Dover International Speedway. I'm Brian Yazek. Enjoy the show.
There you saw quite a few laps around Dover here. And Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit more about this concrete canyon?
Well, this is a neat little track. It's 1 mile in length. It's concrete versus the traditional asphalt that we're all used to, which means when the track gets rubbered up, it's more rubbered on than in. So that's going to create some difficulties for these drivers as racing goes on. We have big sweeping turns, multiple grooves, but because of how even these trucks are with the rule set, things are going to be a little bit difficult when it comes to passing. So expect to see things to get physical as we get towards the later stages of this race, but should be a nice little 110 lap grind we have for us today.
Absolutely, 110 laps or 1 hour, not 6 hours. That would be a long time. But we also have a season sponsor for this season. That is Diecast Kings. You can shop Diecast Kings. They're your home for the best selection of NHRA, NASCAR, and now introducing IndyCar diecast for the 2020 season. Pick yours up today at diecastkings.com. We also have a league sponsor, Chris.
That's right. Our league sponsor this season is the ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Visit thebuttkicker.com today to view their full line of products.
All right, so while we're taking a look at the ButtKicker, we also have some butt-kicking drivers' championship points to look at as well. And someone who's kicking butt at the front is Bradley Hawley, 29 points ahead of Rob Haynes, even after his poor result last week at Talladega. And this is partially due to the drop weeks that have come into effect. So Bradley Hawley, 29 points ahead of Rob Haynes, who's in second. Thomas Sink, only 3 points back in third position. And Brendan Chatley, only 1 point back of Thomas Sink. Paul Williams, only 1 point back. I mean, it is really anyone's game for the second position, but the real question is, who can challenge Bradley for the lead? Can anyone get up there? It's going to be tough, and they're going to need the support of their teammates, Chris. So why don't you talk us through the team standings?
That's right, and that team that Bradley Hawley represents, the Whataback Car Ramrod squad, is up in front, 36 markers ahead of the Rescue Racing Puppers, and then just a handful of markers back to the Whataback Back Row Racing squad. And then 1 point back from them is 24/7 Racing, and still hanging on there a bit further back is the Rescue Racing LBNL squad, which stands for last but not least, in case you forgot what it was in the middle of your train of thought like I did.
Well, the Rescue Racing Pupper is definitely putting on the best challenge that they have in the last couple of seasons, but we do have some race details to talk about as well. For those of you who may be new to the series or new to iRacing in general, this is round 7 of 10 of the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. They're driving the NASCAR Gander RV and Outdoors Series trucks, and they're doing 110 laps around Dover, or 60 minutes, whichever comes first. They only get 24 incidents, and they also have a fixed setup, which means they don't get to adjust this thing. It's exactly what iRacing is going to hand you if you run the C-Class fixed trucks. And there's also going to be no fast repair, so they're going to have to deal with any damage they get if they push wide into that outside wall. And Chris, that is something that these drivers have been talking about a little bit today, that the trucks tend to go away in about 6 or 7 laps. It's not very long, and then you see them hit the outside wall.
Yeah, well, you got to keep in mind too that this is a concrete surface, as we mentioned, and it does get fairly abrasive, especially in an area like Delaware, where this track's located, that goes through the freezing and unfreezing cycles during the winter and spring. And one other thing to keep in mind is this is kind of a self-cleaning track. It's banked all the way around, obviously a little more so in the corners than the straightaways, but this is what some would describe as a self-cleaning track. So when these drivers get into the wall or get a little bit out of shape, they're prone to go skating across the track, which puts them in line of potential other competitors that could end up compounding the incident. And as you can see as we follow along with Bradley Holly, this is a very narrow track. There's a wall pretty much all along the inside, and those straightaways narrow up very quick.
Yeah, it's also very highly banked the entire time. So as Bradley Holly goes around, one of the unique factors about the self-cleaning track is that when you're driving this track, usually when you drive an oval, when a wreck happens, you want to go to the low side and maybe go through the infield. Now, there isn't really an infield here to go through, and as you were saying, those trucks are going to slide into your direction of travel, so you're actually going to want to go to the high side to try and avoid wrecks. Here's Rob Haynes chasing down his teammate in the 59 truck, Brendan Chatley. With 1 minute left of practice, we're going to see a lot of that tire wear going on, but how is it that you can, is it possible to have any team tactics around this place, or is it every man for himself?
I'd say for the most part, this is going to be kind of an every man for himself situation. There's the way the track kind of limits what you can do as far as passing goes. I think you just got to take what you can take when you can get it.
My apologies to Stacy Hunter, every man and woman for themselves around here today. You saw just behind Rob Haynes one of the trucks getting into the wall there, but you're definitely going to see a decent amount of passing today, but it's mostly going to come from when the drivers do end up pushing up towards the outside. So we do have some variable weather today. Right now in the practice session, it is a pretty balmy 117 degrees on the track right now. Wind is really no factor, and 52% humidity is no factor at all. But that partly cloudy is going to keep putting the track in shade or in sun, and as those two things happen, you're going to have to adjust your lines accordingly. All right, practice has wrapped up now, and we're going to be heading into qualifying in the next 5 seconds. Talk to me about your predictions for qualifying. Who do you expect to see at the front?
Well, I think as this season has kind of lent us to believing Bradley Holly should be towards the top of the charts, I would imagine. But things have been pretty close as far as practice goes, so I wouldn't be shocked if we had a surprising name that pops up towards the top, because this is a very close field of trucks.
Yeah, they're within 0.4 of a second in practice, so as a couple of drivers head out there like Mike Richter and Paul Williams, do you want to try and get your qualifying done as early as possible into this qualifying session, or later once the track has rubbered in a little bit?
I'd almost say you'd want to wait mainly because of the partly cloudy conditions we touched on earlier. I mean, you might catch a lucky break and maybe one of the corners will be in the shade. That might give you at least a little bit of an advantage once the track's a little bit cooler without the sun shining directly on it.
Absolutely. So we have some drivers out there. Ken Huber has already taken his first lap around. He's going now for his second lap in the 30 truck. Ken Huber now on the backstretch, exiting turns 1 and 2 fairly cleanly. He's going to dive down into 3 and 4 and click down to the apex. Looks like Mike Richter putting in the first time. He's going to go to the top of the board, but then Paul Williams immediately going to take it away from him. So Ken Huber now crossing the line. He is going to put in a 22.525, so that is good enough for second position as he enters his second lap.
Yeah, and that benchmark keeps dropping. Colton Lane now with a 22.484 is top of the charts.
If we take a look at Mike Richter, looks like he's finished both of his laps, and he's only good enough for 5th right now, but it looks like those who are coming in later, as you said, Chris, having a little bit more of an advantageous day. Colton Lane still holding that top spot as we see him on screen now, crossing for his 2nd lap. Jose Tellez crossing for his 1st lap, good enough for 6th position. As we see Brandon Walter cross for his 2nd lap as well. That's a slower one, 22.6. So we're going to see a lot of these drivers very close to it today, Chris.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair bet, Adam. We have just so many great drivers in this division, and we keep seeing everyone pop it in pretty close together as far as times go.
0.3 currently separates the qualifying field, with Brett Adams coming around for what will be his 1st lap. Colton Lane still doing practice laps. I've noticed a lot of drivers doing a lot more practice laps than we usually see in the PRL Truck Series, so something about this setup is making them feel a little uncomfortable, I think.
Yeah, this is just a really tough track to kind of get your hands wrapped around. You know, it's just the concrete surface is different. It's banked all the way around. There's a lot of different ways you can drive it, but that doesn't mean all those different ways are right. So you got to find what's comfortable for you, what's comfortable for the setup, and what actually translates to the stopwatch.
Nicholas Hunter, fastest lap right now at 22.8. He crosses the line, and it's going to be a 22.851, so that's actually going to be a little bit slower. Adam Shane looks like he's going to come around for his 1st lap. He's going to start his timed lap now. Bradley Holly just rolling off pit road himself as well. Charles Sumner about to start his 1st time lap. So quite a few of these drivers, almost half of them, waiting like you said, Chris. Adam Zemke about to start his lap as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed to not see the cloud cover really hit the track like I'd hoped, just to see if we could get a surprise lap out of somebody.
So 22.854 for Adam Shane's 1st lap, and I think everybody who's coming out late is also a little bit disappointed to not see that cloud cover either. But as we see Adam Zemke come across at 22.857, a lot of these drivers in the later groups are coming in that 22.8 range. Let's see what Bradley Holly could do on his 1st lap. It's a 22.438. That is good enough for pole.
Yeah, not too big of a surprise the way this season has gone, and he was quickest in practice as well. As we see Charles Sumner cross the line with a 22.618, it looked like on the 2nd lap, so I believe we'll keep the 1st lap time. And Bradley Holly still has another lap that he can put in, and drops it by, those are pretty much identical laps, Adam.
They were identical laps, but according to iRacing, the 2nd one was faster. So Bradley Holly very consistent on his pace, 22.438 exactly both laps. And that will, I believe that will wrap us up in qualifying, as it looks like none of the other drivers are going to take to the grid. All right, let's head down the starting grid for you here in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. We're going to be led to the line by Bradley Holly, who landed 2 identical laps of 22.438. Next to him will be Colton Lane, who held provisional pole for about half of that qualifying session in 2nd. Dominic Pagine's going to start off 3rd position, with Rob Haynes starting off in 4th. Ken Huber, who was 2nd in practice, is going to start off 5th of the road today, with Paul Williams, who took provisional pole early in qualifying, fell down to 6th as the runs went on. Thomas Sink starting off in 7th position, with Brendan Chatley in 8th, then Jared Mogard and Daniel Knight, last week's 2nd place finisher, rounding out your top 10.
Just outside of the top 10, not to be confused with 19th century Massachusetts Senator Charles Sumner, our own Charles Sumner. Starting outside of that row is going to be Mark Kalin, then Austin Hunter in the lucky 13th spot, followed by Adam Shane. Adam Zemke is 15th on the grid, with Jose Tellez to his outside. Then Mike Richter, Brandon Walter, Blaine Adams, and Stacy Hunter will complete the top 20.
Brett Adams is going to start off in 21st, with our own Adam J. Young starting off in 22nd. Nicholas Hunter is going to start off 23rd. Next to him is going to be Tristan Callahan in 24th position. Matthew Aubrey is going to be starting off in 25th. John LaBaff 26th. J.R. Bash is 27th. And Craig Holden will round out your 28 truck field, with the last 5 not taking qualifying times. All right, Chris, as we're about to start this race, what are your predictions going into this? Do you expect seeing a lot of side-by-side battles, or are they mostly going to string out today?
I think we are going to see them string out a little bit, but don't be surprised if the intensity picks up here once we get to those final probably 20, 30 laps.
I'd expect the intensity to pick up as long as the tire wear doesn't pick up too much and send quite a few of these drivers into the wall. Speaking of cautions, we haven't had a lot in the last couple of rounds, but with this track being so difficult and the setup being as tight as it is, do you expect we're going to see quite a few cautions today, or do you think it's going to be relatively tame?
Well, I'm going to be optimistic and say that I'm not expecting a lot of cautions, but it's one of those things where sometimes they seem to, what is it they say, cautions breed cautions. So if we do get a couple early on, I wouldn't be surprised to see these guys stay close together and unfortunately maybe stay behind the safety car for a while.
Speaking of staying behind the safety car, Bradley Holly's going to snuggle up nice and close and maybe give it a little bit of a bump draft down the straight. He wants to get this race going, so as they come to the line, Bradley Holly is going to lead them off. Our current championship leader and our driver who has won the last 2 championships in the PRL Truck Series. So Bradley Holly looking to try and make it a three-peat here in the PRL Truck Series. He's going to lead them to the line. The pace car has his lights off and is going to dive down to pit road quite a bit aggressively here at Dover because that banking does fall away quite quickly. So there he is, gone to the inside, and Bradley Holly waits. He waits. He's going to wait till the green flag, it appears, to go here, waiting even longer. And Bradley Holly hits the gas pedal now alongside Colton Lane, who actually gets a really good run on the outside there. So Colton Lane trying to get a good move there, but he's actually going to be stuck on the outside as Bradley Holly puts it down to that concrete line on the bottom of the circuit and just launches off of 1 and 2.
You can see Dominic Beijing hanging out. He'll now take over command of the second spot, and looks like, unfortunately, Colton Lane's getting freight trained on the outside.
Colton Lane already with a hard hit into the outside wall. He's already has right side damage, so he'll have to get some of that repaired as he falls back into the clutches of 10th position. He's already getting passed by Daniel Knight, who's also in the 8th position. So actually, Daniel Knight, Colton Lane falling back significantly quite quickly, and he's the only side-by-side battle we have. But look at this, Bradley Holly and Dominic Beijing very close for the lead right now.
Yeah, maybe a quarter of a truck length between the two as Beijing actually takes a peek to the inside off of turn 4. He'll head back off into turn number 1. Dominic Beijing sets the fastest lap that time around momentarily, where Ken Buter gets the clock in. We're taking a look back now at Beijing from Bradley Holly's tailgate.
You're going to see that back end stick a little bit out here as we go through the corners. These trucks set up so that they drift a little bit, and that way they can get the best traction going around the corner with the power of the rear tires. But Dominic Beijing holding his own against Bradley Holly here in the early stages. But the question is as the tires fall off and he's stuck in that dirty air, can he hold on to it, or will it push up into the wall?
Yeah, that's going to be a major factor here is how close can you follow behind somebody for how long before the degradation from all the dirty air really becomes a factor.
The top 4 under a blanket. Thomas Sink just a stone's throw behind them. As he follows behind them, we have Jared Mogard and Daniel Knight in the 6th and 7th positions with more of a gap back to Paul Williams. So this front train of now 7 cars is being very, very close as we go on board with Ken Huber in 4th.
Huber has been bad fast here in the early running. Looks like he's maybe biding his time a little bit, not as snugged up as we see the top 3 from the view inside his truck.
Well, it looks like Dominic Beijing trying to take a look to the inside again on Bradley Holly, but you got to think that Holly's going to have you covered off if we do go into the inside. And a late move to the inside might not be great for you, but here comes Ken Huber. He's showing himself to the bottom side of Rob Haynes. Rob Haynes thinks about going down to the apex, but has to think better of it because Ken Huber is there. He's got to go for 3rd place if they exit 1 and 2.
Yeah, Haynes definitely could have defended that position a lot stronger if he wanted to, but it is still pretty early in the run, and probably don't want to risk being sent into the wall this early on.
Rob Haynes actually defending quite strongly on the outside. He's actually going to pull a little bit on Ken Huber, who's still stuck on the bottom side. Dominic Beijing looking to see if he can do a crossover here on Bradley Holly for the lead. He's actually going to show himself as well. So now we have a battle for 1st and 2nd and 3rd and 4th here for the positions. Ken Huber's going to get 3rd, and it looks like Bradley Holly's going to move over and let Dominic Beijing take the lead.
Well, maybe it's discretion is the better part of valor there for Bradley Holly. He's pretty masterful when it comes to saving his equipment for later on, and Dominic Beijing was pushing here early. So let Beijing get out in front, let him run down his stuff, and maybe have another shot at him later on.
Daniel Knight and Jared Mogart having a side-by-side battle that just resolved, with Jared Mogart taking the line away from Daniel Knight going into 3 and 4. Daniel Knight trying to challenge for that 6th position, and Jared Mogart proving to be a staunch defender, but Daniel Knight saved his tires for a little bit. He's going to look once again to the bottom side. No, he's actually going to stay right in line. A little bit of a surprise there for Daniel Knight as we ride on board.
And of course, our obligatory look at a hashtag for the Pit Lizards on the tailgate of Mogart's machine, as we see a very tight battle here between Mogart and Knight.
The U car trying to run away from the sword and shield of Daniel Knight in that 17. Daniel Knight trying to do his best to get up to the back of Mogart and maybe try and get a good exit here off of 4 and get a good run. He's going to line it up just a little bit higher on entry. He takes a look, but he thinks better of it. And up at the lead, Dominic Beijing starting to pull away from Bradley Holly a little bit by 0.35 of a second. But does that mean that Bradley Holly is saving his tires? Oh no, Daniel Knight into the wall hard. That is a hard hit on the right side. And that's going to knock him down a couple miles an hour.
We're going to take a quick look back. I imagine Daniel Knight right now wishes he'd had a suit of armor for his truck as he made contact with that outside wall.
This is exactly what can happen as those tires fall off. The truck will just shoot up to the outside, and when you hit that thing, you hit it hard, and you start to lose a good 2 or 3 miles an hour on the straights. And while that might not seem like much, remember, this is a 1 mile track, so 2 or 3 miles an hour over the course of a race can be quite a distance.
Now, speaking of those drivers getting into the outside wall, some of you at home may be wondering, why is there a blue line along the bottom of the straightaway wall here at Dover? They actually painted the wall with that blue stripe on the bottom because the drivers at speed in the actual Cup Series cars were having trouble differentiating where the wall ended and where the white concrete track began.
Looks like Bradley Holly has pulled back up to Dominic Beijing and is trying to challenge him for the lead of the race. Bradley Holly just backing off a little bit to conserve those tires. Dominic Beijing's rear tires look to be a little bit spent here, but Bradley Holly quite a bit closer to Dominic Beijing than we've seen previously, and he's trying to set him up off of 4. Might have gotten to the apex a little bit early there, but Bradley Holly in a great position to challenge Dominic Beijing for the lead.
And this is a track that, once again, a defensive line versus an offensive line are starkly different when you see them in practice. And I think we could see those two different approaches coming here quick. You may see someone like Beijing might make his apex a little bit earlier, sacrifice drive off to have a better position. Or in this case, you'll see Bradley Holly get the better drive off and pull alongside Beijing and keep his line low as he tries to pull ahead off of turn 2.
Beijing's going to fall in line right behind Bradley Holly and maybe take a look to the inside. No, he thinks better of it. He thinks he's going to sit in line behind Bradley Holly. Take a look at this. Dominic Beijing going for a little bit of a different line. He's going to late apex the corners now that the tires are starting to wear and try and get going. But Ken Huber actually with a really good look. He's going to look to the inside of Dominic Beijing, and they almost make contact there as Ken Huber trying to challenge for the second position now.
Yeah, that was definitely a door slamming type of move there by Beijing, but now Huber's going to be right there as they head off into turn 3. So it's going to be Huber actually with the advantage as they come off of 4, and he's going to have them clear as they head down the front straightaway.
And look who is coming to the fore now, Thomas Sink, who just made his way past Rob Haynes. Thomas Sink, starting back there in the 8th position, is going to try and pull his way up towards those top 3. Thomas Sink looks like he saved his tires and is now ready for a fight as we're 19 laps into this run. Right on board with Thomas Sink as he exits the corner. He's going to get a good run on Dominic Beijing. You can see the difference in those tires. Look at that. Dominic Beijing getting a little bit loose exiting the corner. Almost comes across on Thomas Sink, but Thomas able to get to the inside anyway. He's going to be door to door as they exit the corner. This is going to bring Rob Haynes back into play, as well as Jared Mogart, who's going to look to the bottom side in that U car. He's actually going to try and take the position away from Rob Haynes as an opportunistic move while Thomas Sink pulls ahead of Dominic Beijing. Mogart's going to try and follow through.
And that was some really smart racing by Jared Mogart. He saw the fact that Rob Haynes was pinned behind the slower truck, made his lane choice, and was able to leapfrog 2 positions on that move.
And Vagine just getting freight trained at the top of this line. He started this lap in 5th position, and he's already back to 8th position by the end of the lap. He's going to be 9th because Brendan Chatley's going to try and take that position away. No, Dominic Vagine holding strong on that high side. Brendan Chatley unable to get the power off the corner, but now as they go through the corner, Dominic Vagine stuck up in the gray. Here comes Charles Sumner to try and take 10th away from Dominic Vagine as well.
Yeah, looking like a freshly squeezed move for position by Charles Sumner in the Tropicana machine.
Well, Dominic Vagine's falling back seems to have stayed at this point as he's going to hang out. But look at this battle for the 5th position behind Rob Haynes. We also have Daniel Knight, Paul Williams, and Brendan Chatley. Look at this. Paul Williams almost looking to the bottom of Daniel Knight there, but Daniel's actually going to take the opportunity to go down below Brendan Chatley. But now we've got also Charles Sumner who's going to come up to the back of Paul Williams, who had an opportunity. But look at that. It's just they're just switching positions in this group here.
Yeah, I think you can tell who's fast and who may be on the edge of their stuff falling off the cliff.
I can report that both Mike Richter and Brett Adams have hit the outside wall. And Rob Haynes stuck on the high side. Take a look at this. He's the next one to get freight trained here as these tires have really started to fall off. They are almost 2 seconds off pace from when they started this run.
That concrete's becoming like a cheese grater on these Goodyears.
Rob Haynes getting squeezed just a little bit by Dominic Vagine. Remember, these two battled up there for that 5th position. Now they're battling down here for 10th position as Rob Haynes now relegated back there to the 10th position as Dominic Vagine slotted into 9th. Up for the lead, 0.7 seconds between Bradley Hawley and Ken Huber.
Yeah, pretty solid lead for Hawley, but Ken Huber still hanging in there, maybe just a little bit too far away to say he's in contact with Hawley, but he's definitely not too far off.
Adam Shane and Adam Young are our two latest victims of hitting the outside wall. They both have a little bit of right front damage that is characteristic of hitting the outside wall here at Dover. As we're taking a look at this battle continuing with the 59 truck of Brendan Chatley being challenged by Paul Williams. But look at this lead that Bradley Hawley has, 0.9 of a second.
Yeah, this is definitely not an easy track to drive, and Bradley Hawley is making it look easy as he continues to expand his lead in that 184 truck. He is looking very strong here in Delaware.
Bradley doing an excellent job trying to maintain that lead, and he continues to pull away from the folks behind him. Actually, the gaps are starting to get a little bit consistent between Bradley Hawley, Ken Huber, and Thomas Sink, all of them at about 0.8 seconds. Take a look at this. Adam Zemke and Josue Tellez passing Rob Haynes. Rob Haynes getting a little bit deep into the corner. It's easy to do around here at Dover. Getting deep into the corner and getting up in that gray at the top of the hill.
Yeah, these drivers, Tellez and Zemke, both making a pretty strong drive up into or towards the top 10. Tellez, you can see on your screen, started 16th and has been biding his time and making his way up through the field.
He's one who really likes to enter the corner early and kind of diamond it and get a late apex as well, whereas Adam Zemke enters the corner a little bit higher and then late apexes the corner, both of which are viable strategies around here at Dover.
Yeah, in many ways this is a sport, but in other ways you could almost consider racing an art, the way these drivers have to all paint their own picture with their approaches to the track. And it's one thing I really love about this sport is that you can see all these drivers sharing a track, everyone with their own different interpretation of what to do, and it gives different results, as well as we see Tellez now getting underneath Zemke, and he'll have him clear as they head off the corner.
And that is one of the beautiful things about oval racing. You do go around the track so many times that you do get to pay very close attention to the granular detail of how each of these drivers tackles the track, and it is one of the most beautiful things about here, oval racing, especially here at Dover. Looks like we have a couple of battles forming up for the 5th position and the 7th position. Once again, Brendan Chatley and Paul Williams duking it out between the two of them, with Daniel Knight and Charles Sumner also battling between each other. As you see Charles Sumner diving to the inside of Daniel Knight in the background, Paul Williams still chasing down Brendan Chatley. Oh, Charles is just going to try and squeeze through there on the Knight as he makes it work around the outside, or on the inside there. Charles Sumner, excellent move there.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that was making it work and how much of that was just luck that it didn't go wrong.
Yeah, as the truck gets tighter, I mean, it was very close between Sumner and Knight, and it looks like up ahead, Paul Williams is going to dive to the inside of Brendan Chatley now for the 5th position. Paul Williams, having made that move, he's now back up to his starting position of 6th and now moves up to 5th position with that pass on Chatley. Chatley looking very tight this late into the run. They're 35 laps in at this point, Chris. At what point do you think they're going to start considering pitting?
I think that time's got to be coming up here shortly. As we can see, Adam, I mean, the tires are falling off quick for a lot of the drivers that weren't able to conserve early on. So I wouldn't be surprised for pit road to get busy sooner than later for sure.
Taking a look at the battle for 10th position, this is once again between Dominic Pagine and Adam Zemke, with Austin Hunter looking on the background. And it looks like Rob Haynes has gone around and collected Mike Richter in the back. These two are actually coming into pit lane. So like you said, Chris, good predictions. These two on early pit stops, they were ones who were falling back. Mike Richter with some significant right side damage, and Rob Haynes just having fallen from the top 5. There are first takers in pit lane.
If only I could have that kind of luck with lottery numbers.
So what will Bradley Holly do? Obviously, he is not beholden to those who are further back in the pack, but he is definitely going to have to consider whether or not he's going to take a pit stop sometime soon. Ken Huber's in the same boat, but he's 1.28 seconds behind, so that gap has really grown between himself and Holly.
And how about that? Holly also beginning to encounter lap traffic, so will that maybe play a role in when he decides to make his pit stop?
Ken Huber having to take a shallow line due to J.R. Bash, who is trying to get past. Jared Mogard looking like he's trying to challenge for the 2nd position there. He's saved up his tires a little bit for the end of this run.
Yeah, which is almost an unexpected strategy call from Mogard. He's kind of a hard charger out there, so to see him playing it a little more conservative shows a different shade of his playbook, so to speak.
Ken Huber allowing Jared Mogard to go by. Jared using up quite a bit of tires to maintain that speed as he exits the corner. Here comes Brett Adams, the lap truck. The lap truck's going to go to the high side here. Not super high, just high enough, but this is actually going to compromise Jared Mogard's exit, and Ken Huber might be able to get a run back. No, look at this. That was very, very slow off the corner for Brett Adams. He almost collected the wall once again.
Yeah, maybe not the best day for Brett Adams, but he is doing a pretty solid job letting the leaders get by and keep their day going strong. So Mogard now in the 2nd position. We'll see how strong he pushes to try to run down the 184.
But Bradley Holly now on lap 42 of this stint with some significant traffic ahead of him who are battling for position. That is Blaine Adams and Matthew Aubrey who are battling for position, followed by Stacy Hunter and John LaBaff. And this almost might collect Bradley Holly. That was John LaBaff who got very, very loose exiting the corner as they were trying to go past Blaine Adams, and that almost ended a disaster for our leader.
Yeah, that could have been extremely bad for Bradley Holly. And another thing that we have to consider here in the not too distant future, Adam, is the difference between fresh tires and used up tires. I mean, at a certain point of enough of the field's going to have pit that if Bradley Holly doesn't head down and get tires, he's just giving up time and making it harder for him to get the lead back after the pit stop cycle through.
That is definitely a factor we have to consider, but up to this point, the only drivers to have pit are Mike Richter and Rob Haynes, and they are both 2 laps down at this point, back in 27th and 28th position. As we take a look at this battle still between 2nd position, Jared Mogard, Ken Huber, and Thomas Sink, and man, that was a very intense moment coming off the corner.
And this lap traffic is not making things very easy on the minds of these lead lap cars. Oh, LaBaff is around, and this is going to get collected by Matthew Aubrey. He's going to drop down, and even more collection there. Mike Richter with nowhere to go. That was a tough break. Richter, one of the drivers that had already pit, was trying to get back on the lead lap.
We're going to watch it now. Here's John LaBaffe. John LaBaffe had already had two major moments where he was exiting the corner and got extremely loose. Let's see how this happened here. He comes up the corner, and I believe it's going to be on the next lap when it happens. So let's stay with John LaBaffe because he had a really interesting moment on the front stretch here as well. Oh, yes, he hits the outside wall, and that ends up spreading everybody out. That was the slow car of Mike Richter, who had already hit the outside wall earlier. So here comes John LaBaffe exiting 3 and 4. Did he get help? Oh, no, he got loose by himself and tried to save it, unable to do so, and then gets collected by the 95, drifts down to the bottom of the lane, and then Mike Richter, trying to smoke through, had nowhere to go.
How about that? He got loose like that right in front of one of our I believe it was our second place truck.
Yeah, that was Ken Huber who was right behind him when he got loose like that. So Matthew Aubrey with major engine damage, Mike Richter with significant engine damage, and our entire field is in the pits.
Yeah, this is a very unfortunate break for the 29er, Rob Haynes, who had already taken his pit stop and was really depending on these green flag stops to make it a full cycle, as he had been trapped a couple laps down when this whole process kicked off.
And that is one of the risks you run by being one of the first people to pit. And if you are unable to get that cycle through, you end up getting trapped laps down. And especially around here at Dover, where the speeds are so high and the track distance is so short, you end up getting trapped multiple laps down. So Rob Haynes looks like Rob Haynes and Matthew Aubrey both with situations themselves where they're going to have to come into pit lane. So Rob Haynes, he is in world of hurt right now, one lap down.
So looks like pretty much all of our main players right now have already hit pit road. So it looks like, from what I can tell, it looks like Bradley Holly will still be leading him down to the start.
You know, now might be a good time to mention this. Let's get our eyes on the 62 truck of Mark Kalin. We'd like to wish Mark Kalin a very happy birthday while he's driving around the track tonight. Currently in 10th position, Mark Kalin, happy birthday.
We would send out the whole staff to head over to his house and sing, but we have to maintain social distancing rules right now, so just know that we're singing to you in spirit, Mark.
Well, that was an interesting run. It ended a little bit prematurely, but based upon that run, how do you think Bradley Holly's going to play this strategy for the rest of the race? We're almost halfway. We're at lap 48 of 110. Bradley Holly's got another run like that plus a couple of laps to go. Do you see this being split into two, or do you think he's going to try and go all the way from here?
I'm gonna call that one too early to tell. There's so much still up in the air with the way this race could play out. The whole cautions breed cautions theory, everybody getting bunched back up, and all sorts of different agendas. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw another stop, but it wouldn't shock me either if these guys tried to stretch it out to the end.
So as Rob Haynes takes the wave around, as they run, Bradley Holly will lead them to the line with Jared Mogard in second. Thomas Sink's going to start off in third position with Ken Huber having fallen back to fourth. Paul Williams will round out your top five. Then we have Brendan Chatley, Charles Sumner, Daniel Knight, Mark Kalin, and Austin Hunter rounding out your top 10. Bradley Holly will lead them to the line. They will go green on lap 50. So Bradley Holly, can he get another good jump? Can he make it past Jared Mogard on the start? Will Mogard provide a stout defense on the outside? Will Bradley Holly wait for the green flag like he did at the start? We're about to find out as the pace car pulls off. Bradley Holly waiting. He's going to continue to wait here. And now he jumps. He does jump early, and Jared Mogard drops down immediately behind him. The green flag is waving in the sky with Thomas Sink on the outside. Brendan Chatley and Ken Huber side by side for the fifth position.
Yeah, Bradley Holly, a masterful job on getting that restart done. He's already jumped out to over a half-second lead, and the battle's now on for second between Mogard and Sink. And how about the battle for third between Knight, Chatley, and Huber? Or excuse me, fourth.
Brendan Chatley stuck on the high side in that 5th position with Daniel Knight sneaking by on the underside. So Brendan Chatley now dropping down, but how much has that spent his tires? Charles Sumner is the next one to try and get up in behind him, and then they bottle up behind him with Paul Williams, Austin Hunter, and Mark Kalin in the top 10.
Pretty much everybody on an even playing field right now as far as tire wear goes, with everybody being able to hit the pit stop under the last caution. But now we're going to see who's going to be able to do a competent job of saving those tires and who might be using it all up right here. As you see Mogard now to the back bumper of Holly, and looks like he might be thinking about making a move.
Mogard, an aggressive driver, Thomas Sink, an aggressive driver, and Bradley Holly, cold and calculating as always up here at the front of the pack. This is going to be very interesting to see how each 3 of these drivers manage this, with Ken Huber now snuck up to the back of them as well.
These drivers are all doing a pretty good job out there of racing hard but racing clean, and that's not always the easiest thing to do at this track.
So as they run lap 54, this is pretty much single file all the way back down to Rob Haynes, who's sneaking his way back through the field after his pit stop. Everyone pretty much biding their time at this point. Maybe they saw the tires go off a little bit more than they expected, whereas we actually do have a side-by-side battle there. I believe that was Mark Kalin for a moment getting passed by Adam Zemke for the 11th position, for the 10th position rather. Mark Kalin starting to fall back here early on in this run, but everyone just in line. About 0.13 separates everybody from the top spot down to 11th.
Yeah, Mogard and Holly still very close for that top spot, but I think you're right. I think these drivers got a taste for what these tires were going to do during that first run, and I think we're seeing everybody played a little more safe here so far in the second session of this race.
That being said, if you continue to play it safe and everybody else does too, I mean, if everybody's super, nobody is, and therefore you can't make a pass if everyone's got the same tire wear that you do around this track. So someone's going to have to take a risk and make a move.
Well, I think we have 2 prime candidates to be the first ones to make a move there in second and third, which has got to make the 184 of Bradley Holly awfully nervous, as you have Thomas Sink got right to the back bumper of the 00, where he lost quite a bit of ground through 3 and 4 there.
I think that Thomas Sink had to back off a little bit there due to the risk, and it looks like we actually have a battle going on for the 10th position once again. Adam Zemke being the first one to take a bite. As you saw in the background, he sneaks his way past Austin Hunter, as Austin Hunter was trying to look for a move on Paul Williams. So Adam Zemke, ever the opportunist, sneaks his way up into the 9th position.
And looks like Ken Huber might have his hands full here in just a moment, with looks like Daniel Knight right on his back bumper beginning to look a little bit racy.
And take a look at this, Daniel Knight with a fantastic run, but Ken Huber's going to move to the middle of the track and try and block it off, as we see Paul Williams in the background getting passed by Mark Kalin as well. Ken Huber in a position where he's going to have to defend here. He's not able to keep the pace with the rest of the guys at the front, and he's starting to fall back into the clutches of Daniel Knight.
Yeah, well, if you're not growing, you're dying, so to speak, and unfortunately Huber is beginning to wilt his way back towards the rest of the field, as the top 3 is in a bit of a breakaway.
So the top 3 separated by only 0.38 of a second, and then is another 0.4 seconds back to Ken Huber in that 4th position, as he's now starting to try and get himself back up to those guys up ahead. But Thomas Sink, with very close to Jared Mogard, he's actually going to take a look into 3 and 4.
He's not just going to take a look, he's going to pull alongside and pull clear of them as they head off of turn 4.
So Thomas Sink, having made the pass, is now going to challenge Bradley Holly for that lead position if he can get there. Jared Mogard trying to get his way back up front, but that actually gave Ken Huber an opportunity to try and get back up to the back of them. He's still got Daniel Knight very close in behind, and these top 10 still only separated by 1.7 seconds. But Bradley Holly out to a 0.36 second lead, on board with Brendan Chatley.
You can see out the front there of Chatley's number 59. You can see just how close the trucks in front of them really are. I mean, especially that top three, you can see them there in the distance. Those trucks are not all that far apart.
Chatley trying to find his way forward, either that or just hang out and wait till later on in the race. But we are past halfway at this point. We are 64 laps into this 110 lap race. This means that go time is going to start happening very shortly here for these drivers. And they're going to have to decide if they decide to take another pit stop, try and split this thing in half, or go as long as they can before they pit. And that's all going to depend on what the folks back in the back of this pack or in the middle of this pack, like Brendan Chatley, decide to do as far as pit strategy.
Yeah, I think the drivers that maybe don't have the best track position right now are really going to be the ones that dictate how the end of this race plays out.
Looking on board with Brendan Chatley up to Daniel Knight up ahead. Daniel still on the back of Ken Huber, and it looks like he's trying to look for an opportunity to try and get by. Daniel trying to work very hard at this, but Ken Huber is holding his position quite well.
Yeah, I would agree. Huber doing a pretty solid job, and now he has caught the back of the 00 of Mogard, and looks like he may be thinking about making a move here shortly.
We see Mogard be susceptible before. Ken Huber showing his hand, going to the bomb side. He decides to duck in line once again, but look at that. Mogard leaving a little bit of a lane there. Huber thought he might decide to take it, decided against it. Now Daniel Knight on the attack, but look at this. Ken Huber down the middle of the track. Mogard signaling that he doesn't want Huber to pass quite yet, thinks he's too far back. Daniel Knight's going to have to stay in line, so is Huber. Mogard retains third.
Yeah, starting to get a little bit chippy there for that third spot. As Daniel Knight trying to get by Huber, Huber trying to get past Mogard, and Mogard just trying to keep touch with the top two. So a lot of different agendas going on right now. As you can see, Huber once again makes a little bit of a peak to the bottom, but not quite able to lock it down yet.
That's going to give Huber a bad exit. Daniel Knight unable to go anywhere with it, though, because Huber was in the middle of the track. So this brings Brendan Chatley to the floor. He's now going to challenge for that fifth position. He's going to get up there. These top six under a blanket of 0.95 seconds. Here comes Hey Huber down to the bottom side of Mogard. He's going to be there as they go into 3 and 4. And oh! Mogard turns down into him. There's going to be contact, but no caution as Mogard's able to get back going. But this is going to collect a couple of other drivers as well. That was Mark Kalin who had trouble as well, so this is going to shuffle up everybody and give Bradley Holly a significant lead.
But how about that save by the 00 at Mogard? As you can watch here, Huber gets a great run off of 2. He'll pull to the inside into turn 3, and unfortunately they're just going for the same piece of real estate. Mogard starts to go around, but then Huber actually makes contact with his left front wheel and straightens him out. So Mogard's able to continue on, but he's now back in the 13th position after running in third here just a little bit ago.
And this is one of those unique tracks in NASCAR where that inside line really can dive it down into the brakes quite a bit harder than the outside line. So if somebody gets a nose in just a little bit like that, you kind of have to give them the room. Otherwise, you run the risk of getting yourself spun, and that's the risk Mogard ran into. Now he's troubled back in the 13th position. Bradley Holly, though, in the lead by 0.46 over Thomas Sink, who has a 0.6 lead over Ken Huber. Then it is 0.4 back to Brendan Chatley and 0.4 back to Daniel Knight. So these top five, once again, separated by equal distances as we enter into these runs.
Got a little bit further back around the 6th position. Charles Sumner taking the spot away from Adam Zemke, which also opens the door for the 312 of Austin Hunter to get in there as well. So it looks like the 42 of Zemke unfortunately stuck out in that outside line, and he's beginning to hemorrhage positions.
42 stuck out there. That is Adamson going underneath. Paul Williams is going to follow the third of Dominic Mazzini in the 66 after his woes a little bit earlier on with tire wear. He's trying to claw his way back up the field. He's going to go underneath Zemke now. He's stuck on that high side. Zemke, very good moving himself forward early on, but look at what it is costing him.
Yeah, unfortunately, he showed his hand just a little bit too soon, and he's definitely paying the consequences for it.
Take a look at this. Thomas Sink closing to Bradley Holly. Down to .2. He's cut the gap in half and is now right on the rear bumper of Holly as they go into 1 and 2.
Yeah, Sink's really worked that lead down quite a bit, and he's now within striking distance here, or at least he will be probably pretty soon if he keeps up this pace.
On board with Thomas Sink from that moment, as we ride through the bumps and bruises that come from Dover. Many real-life drivers say that they come out of this race with an injured tailbone because of how rough the track can be at points. But Thomas Sink trying to claw his way back up to Bradley Holly, and Holly has responded. He has drawn that gap back out to 0.4 seconds.
Yeah, Holly with a great job responding to the heat that the 48 was beginning to bring. Not too out of the question for a driver like Holly. Another one of those guys that's just really good at managing the pace of the race. He kind of slows things down to the way that he wants it to be run. And unfortunately, you can see Thomas Sink, once he started to turn the wick up, Bradley Holly said, okay, we'll go. And ended up extending the lead back out.
For those of you keeping track of tire wear, we are on lap 32 of this stint. So that means these tires are pretty spent at this point. But look at this battle for 5th position. Daniel Knight starting to fall back into the clutches of Charles Sumner as they enter 3 and 4. Ooh, Charles clips the apron just a little bit, and that ends up sending him quite a bit wide, exiting the corner. He had to get out of the throttle. That ends up making him lose time to Daniel Knight. But Daniel Knight unable to get to the apex now. But this brings Austin Hunter back into the picture, and Mark Kalin as well.
Yeah, that's one issue that it's kind of familiar to the drivers that regularly run these concrete tracks, is there's definitely very different grip levels between the apron and the track itself. The apron is actually asphalt, whereas the track is concrete, and that can do a major number on upsetting the handle on that truck.
We have 19 laps to go. Oh, and we're going to go back to P11 and take a look at the battle between Adam Zemke and Tristan Callahan. These two drivers both have their own troubles, but Tristan Callahan stuck in the back for quite a bit of this race. Looks like he's saved his tires and is on the move forward. We have our first pit stop taker. That was Colton Lane who decided to come to the pit lane, and he's now coming back out on track. He will come out onto track 2 laps down.
Now, do you think, Adam, with this many laps left, do you think a second pit stop might be worth the while for these drivers?
Once again, I think it's too early to call at this point. Even with, just 17 laps to go, it's going to be a very close call for all of these drivers. But look at how fast Colton Lane is moving on those fresh tires. Meanwhile, Brendan Chatley putting a challenge on Ken Huber. We're going to ride on board from this roof cam, taking a look at Ken Huber from up ahead of him. Chatley, having regained his positions, looking lost him a little bit of excess tire wear. He's cooled that front right tire down and is now ready to put a challenge up for that last spot on the podium. So exit 3 and 4, Chatley getting ever closer. Ken Huber looks like he's just riding at this point. Has a hard time turning the car in towards the center of the corner. Still a decent line off, so Huber with decent car control. Chatley's going to have to do something drastic to try and make a buck.
He gets so close on corner entry to the back of Huber, but that drive off that Huber has just been tremendous. We saw that actually probably was what led to his incident with Mogard, is he just had such a great drive off. He got such a great run down the front straightaway that Mogard didn't even have time to really prepare for him to be there to his inside.
So Chatley's going to have to try and diamond this final corner, get close to Huber on entry, and then get a good exit off. It's just a little bit off apex this time, so unable to get the run. But that's Chatley's key to victory if he can sneak his way to the inside of Huber. But here comes Colton Lane with all the speed in the world. Chatley, unexpecting it to happen, almost gets pushed to the outside wall because of it. Colton Lane's going to dive to the inside of Huber. Yeah, let's take a look at this because this is a very interesting moment here. We're going to take a look on board with Brendan Chatley. You're not going to be able to see it in the outside mirror, but look at the inside mirror. Colton Lane just comes up and look how quickly he goes by. That is the difference of fresh tires.
Yeah, that is just such a tremendous difference in speed. And that might be what's leading some of these drivers to possibly consider making another pit stop. Because after blowing past those two, Colton Lane is already back to getting underneath the second place runner, the 48 of Thomas Sink. And he's about to pass your leader, Bradley Holly, like he's sitting still.
So Colton Lane already passed Bradley Holly, already gained one of those laps back, but it is a 2-lap loss. Oh, here comes Chatley with a decent entry into 3 and 4. Does he have the exit? Ken Huber dove it late into the corner. He almost hits the wall on the outside, but that commitment means that he was able to retain the position as they entered 1 and 2. Huber having to spend a lot of his stuff in defense now with Brendan Chatley putting the pressure on. Comes a similar move. Chatley, though, diving a little bit deeper into 3 and 4. He's stuck up a lane higher. That means he's not going to get the exit that he wants. And actually, Bradley Holly is getting held up a little bit by traffic from, I believe that was JR Bash that they were passing. So Thomas Sink very close in behind him now.
Yeah, Thomas Sink is definitely significantly closer than he's been in a minute. So we'll see if he can make anything happen there. Is Bradley Holly still trying to set a torrid pace, but Thomas Sink is continuing to cut into that lead.
And just as we go away from it, of course, Brendan Chatley takes that opportunity to go by Ken Huber because he knows we're watching. So we're going to take a look at this replay. Looks like Huber just got a bad exit off of 4. That allowed Brendan Chatley to get underneath him and try and make the pass.
It almost looked like Chatley didn't expect to be able to make the pass that lap. He saw he had to swing down real low on the track, almost like he was responding to Huber maybe having a bad exit off the corner, and Chatley just put the hammer down, was able to take away 3rd spot.
So we are 46 laps into this tire stint, and it is tight at P5. Daniel Knight being chased by Charles Sumner and Mark Kalin, both on the same strategy. And this is the lap truck of JR Bash, who's going to take away the line from Daniel Knight and Charles Sumner. This might give an opportunity to Kalin to look at the inside. He thinks better of it, but look at him. He's on the move, and so is Austin Hunter behind him. They is now really close for this 5th position.
Yeah, Hunter was so close to the back of Kalin, he was almost a passenger on Kalin's truck.
So here they go around. Paul Williams now in the 9th position, looking on the back of Austin Hunter as everyone's just looking forward out their windshields, and no one realizes that they're being challenged so closely from behind either. It is absolutely nose to tail here, and here comes the lap car of Rob Haynes, going to try and put a pass on Paul Williams. Surely not. Okay, here he goes. So Paul Williams going way up wide into the gray. He's going to lose a ton of time to the battle ahead.
Yeah, imagine Paul Williams not too happy to be put in that position right now by a lap down truck, and looks like the 312 is going to be in the same predicament as Rob Haynes just mowing through these lead lap trucks.
Oh, Mark Halen's not going to take this sitting down, though. Mark Halen diving to the inside of Charles Sumner. He wants to get the move done before Rob Haynes comes up, and he's able to do so. Rob Haynes, though, able to power it off on that bottom side, but he's going to take away the inside line from Mark Halen as they go through 3 and 4. This might give Charles Sumner an opportunity to come back. Charles.
Looks like not going to happen that time as Kalen still able to hold off the 98 machine. And you can see everybody just kind of skating out of the way.
Alrighty, we are on lap 98 of 110, and Thomas Sink has not given up. He is only 0.2 of a second behind, less than a quarter of a second behind Craig Holden, going up to the high side, trying to let them by, and he's going to be able to manage to do so. Thomas Sink, though, he smells victory. He knows he's very close to it. We're getting very close to it. And it is lap 99 of 110 as we come across the line. Thomas Sink and Bradley Holly. It is going to be very close between these two.
Yeah, Sink getting in even closer. This is the closest they've been in quite a while. And Sink now beginning to take a different approach off the corner, maybe trying to get a run on the 184 to try to make a pass. And there is still lap trucks in the way that the leaders are going to have to tangle with here shortly.
10 to go as they cross the line. That is Brett Adams. Is Brett going to let these two by? He's definitely going to let Bradley Holly by, but is Thomas Sink going to have his exit compromised by Brett? No, Brett is able to let them both by at the same time. Good move from him. Good sportsman-like move. Bradley Holly and Thomas Sink still nose to tail as they go into 3 and 4.
These two
Go ahead, Chris.
still very close as they come off of 4. And looks like Sink actually staying in pretty much lockstep with the 184 of Holly, Adam.
Yeah, Thomas Sink looking a little bit tighter off of the corners than Bradley Holly, but he's also pushing very hard right now. We also have a close battle between Mark Kalin and Charles Sumner that still has not separated between those two. Charles Sumner trying everything he can to get those late exits and try and get up to Mark Kalin. They have Daniel Knight that they're closing in on up ahead, so this is actually starting to become even more of a battle for that 5th position. And I can also report that Ken Huber and Brendan Chatley are close nose to tail now, with Ken Huber having gotten passed by Brendan Chatley recently.
Yeah, with 8 laps to go, and it should be 7 here shortly. These drivers are all in very close company, everybody trying to get as much out of this race as they can here in the closing stages.
Ken Huber definitely has not given up. He is very close to the back of Brendan Chatley. He's actually going to look for a good exit here. He's going to look to the inside as they go into 3 and 4. Chatley saw what happened to Mogart and decides better than to chop down on Ken Huber here, but Ken unable to hold the line on the bottom side. And look at this, a big battle for the lead. Bradley Holly got held up behind the 71 truck, and that's going to allow Thomas Sink to the inside, but Holly's going to power it through on the outside. An unbelievable reservation of position for Bradley Holly.
Yeah, Holly caught up to the back of the 71 of Stacy Hunter, and I'm not sure if just a weird incident on the track, but the 184 of Holly actually ended up running into the back of the 71 of Hunter. That allowed the 48 of Sink to pull up alongside him, but Holly showing some strength there and able to hold him on.
We're going to stay with this lead battle as it is 5 to go right now. These two still inseparable. Thomas Sink so good on the entry of the corner. Bradley Holly looks like he lost a little bit of tire life in that moment with Stacy Hunter, so this is going to make things interesting. Thomas Sink smells blood in the water. He is right up on the rear bumper, and the battle up ahead of them, that is between Blaine Adams and Nicholas Hunter. It is not for position, so these two guys are going to have to get out of the way, hopefully, for Bradley Holly and Thomas Sink, but they're not doing it. 3 and 4, Bradley Holly and Thomas Sink side almost nose to tail here, and now Bradley's going to get held up a little bit by Blaine Adams. Thomas Sink right on his rear bumper.
Sink began to take a look at the bottom. Holly doing a great job defending, but still there is a lot of traffic up in front of him. Holly almost trapped behind the 109 truck of Hunter, and now Sink once again going to try to take another peek. He is right on the tailgate of Holly, but not able to do anything now as we have just 2 laps to go.
And that is Rob Haynes, who is hanging out behind them. We're going to see whether or not he tries to go by or whether he decides that this is as far forward as he's going to get. Thomas Sink, though, really on fire here, looking to the inside of Bradley Holly. They enter 3 and 4. A little bit of contact between the two of them. Holly's able to maintain his line. Thomas Sink having to fall back a little bit. Here we go. White flag this time around. Thomas Sink right behind Bradley Holly. Bradley Holly has the white flag. Can he hold off Thomas Sink for the win?
Sink is right on the tailgate of Holly as they head down the back straightaway. He's going to have one last shot. This is it as they head off into turn number 3.
Holly dives it in deep. Thomas Sink dives it in deep as well, but unable to do anything. Thomas Sink's going to push wide. That gives the victory to Bradley Holly here at Dover in the PRL NASCAR Truck Series. What a race!
Wow, that was quite a finish between Holly and Sink there.
Both of them pushing as hard as they could, navigating through lap traffic. What a battle between the 184 and the 48. Fantastic work from both of them, but Bradley Holly is going to be the one drinking the champagne today. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Well, not quite do it for us today, actually. Don't go anywhere because we will have those official results for you as well as some driver interviews when we come back after this short break. Welcome back to Dover, here with the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series, sponsored by Diecast Kings. And what a phenomenal race we had here at Dover. And we're going to run you through those results. Bradley Holly holding off Thomas Sink by barely just 0.186 of a second, and they were separated like that for the last 10 laps. Thomas Sink coming home in second place with Ken Huber almost 5 seconds back in third, being able to pass Daniel Knight late on. Well, Brendan Chatley actually late on in that race. And we have Brendan Chatley coming home in fifth with Daniel Knight in fourth. Forgot to mention him. Charles Sumner coming home in the sixth position, being able to hold off Josue Tellez there at the end of the race with Austin Hunter, Tristan Callahan, and Paul Williams in a very heated battle for eighth position, and rounded out your top 10.
Just outside of the top 10 was the birthday boy today, Mark Kalin, coming home in 11th, followed by Jared Bogard, recovering from to finish 12th after that incident earlier on. Dominic Beijing faded after leading laps early on to finish 13th, with Brandon Walter, Adam Shane, Adam Zemke, Adam Young, Nicholas Hunter, Stacy Hunter, and Colton Lane completing the top 20, and I think we only used about 2 different names there.
Well, starting off 2 laps down is Blaine Adams and Brett Adams. Then we have Craig Holden in 23rd, J.R. Bash in 24th, Rob Haynes in 25th, and our DNFs today were Matthew Aubrey, John LaBeouf, and Mike Richter. But we have our winner here, Bradley Holly, to talk to. But Bradley, that was not your easiest win in the world today.
No, I mean, for the most part, I was just trying to save tires. I mean, felt like if I could save it better than everybody else behind me, then, I felt like I had a better chance.
And talk to me about those last 10 laps with Thomas Sink really trying to give you some pressure there. How hard was it to hold him off at the end?
For the most part, we both saved our tires about the same. We were talking about that while the race was going on, and I felt like we were just, he was faster one lap, and then I was faster. It was more like a trade-off.
Well, Bradley, you have done fantastic this season, but with the unfortunate events that happened at the end of last race to this race, you come in commanding fashion and win it. How is your confidence going into the last 3 races of the season?
Oh, confidence is high. I'm looking forward to the last three races of the season to see what happens.
Talking about seeing what happens, next week is Martinsville. What are your thoughts on that race? Is that one of your favorite tracks?
Oh yeah, Martinsville's a great, fun little paperclip. So maybe we'll see someone use the chrome horn, or maybe we'll have a race like what Brad Keselowski did last year.
Well, we'll have to find out next week, but Bradley, thanks for talking to us and congrats on the hard-fought win today.
Thank you very much.
That was Bradley Holly, our winner. Next up, we have Thomas Sink, who is talking with Chris Phoebe.
Well, Thomas, a runner-up finish today, but the truck looked very impressive and looked like a couple different times there you had a shot at Bradley when he got bottled up behind some of the lap trucks. Do you think maybe a couple more laps and you could have had him?
I don't know. It's kind of the same scenario as what I had in Texas. It just when I got close enough to Bradford to kind of get a run, we go into the corner and just that arrow push was just incredible. I couldn't turn the truck and it just would kill my runs off the corner.
Now, it seemed like tires were probably playing the big role out there. How much did the tire degradation affect how you were approaching this race?
100%. If you went out and ran, as you saw early in the race, Dominic went out and ran with us and got out to the lead, and then he just dropped like a rock. So tires was probably the biggest concern going into the race and how much we need to save and keep that gap between other cars.
Now, next week we kind of shift gears here quite a bit to a very different style of track over at Martinsville Speedway. How are you feeling about that one coming up next on the schedule?
To keep racing us like these lap cars are not good. I think it's just going to be a wreck fest, to be honest with you.
Well, we'll hope for maybe things to turn out a little more optimistic. Thomas, anybody you want to thank that helped make tonight possible for you?
Yeah, Brad Holly at Stars and Stripe Realty. He's put his name on the truck. All the guys at Whataback for putting in the hours and laps and giving the feedback for us. Trading paints for everything they do for us. And then you guys in PRL, you guys put on a great presentation. It's fun to watch. And like I say, hey to the girlfriend at home.
Well, thanks for meeting with us today, Thomas. Wish you best of luck for next week, and hopefully we'll be talking to you again. And Adam, I believe you're catching up to our third place finisher, Ken Huber.
Yeah, Ken, one of our winners this season and at Bristol, so another concrete track. How does this place compare to Bristol?
Hey guys, I don't know. This track is it's obviously a bottom lane. It narrows up quick now that they put that safer barrier in. There's not a lot of room. To me, it's a it's actually really different. It's hard. I don't know. Like I said, you got to use the bottom. You got to save the tires. And if you get up high, you're just going to get free trained. And while we're talking, I want to apologize to Jared. I don't know if I got into him, if it was my fault. If it was, sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to. But yeah, that's how it goes, I guess.
And talk to me about those hard battles you had. I know it's super difficult to pass around here, but what was the hardest part about racing on this track tonight?
Hardest part is balancing your tires and not get past or to make passes without wearing out the tires. It's really if you're in the first position, you can kind of gauge the race and set everybody up, or make dictate everybody's tires. In my case, if you make a pass, you scrubbed off a couple laps off your tires, so you're always hurting. If you get past and you try to fight on the outside, you're wearing out your tires. So it's hard.
Well, Ken, fantastic third place finish. Well fought with quite a few drivers. Is there anyone you want to thank that made this possible for you today?
Not just you guys. You guys always do a good job. I enjoyed the league, so thank everybody in the league for a clean race tonight. Hope everybody's families are doing well and getting over the hump here, and everybody can get back to work. And
Well, Ken, as always, thank you for talking with us and congratulations on your third place finish. We'll look forward to seeing you at Martinsville.
thanks, guys. Have a good one.
That was Ken Huber, our third place finisher, and that is going to wrap us up for tonight. We want to give a big thanks to the Precision Racing League for bringing us on for another season, and a big thank you to this season's sponsors, Diecast Kings, and the ButtKicker. Both products are fantastic. You can shop with them at Diecast Kings and thebuttkicker.com. Big thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts, which are going to be listed here on your screen. As always, many thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our awesome music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to today's crew, Sean, Chris, and Dougie. If you want to find out more about GSRC, including our upcoming races, you can find us at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, while you're at it, check out our social media, which we're on Twitter at GSR Channel, on Facebook at Global SimRacing Channel, and on Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you want to see more of the racing action like this and other series, if there's a big red subscribe button down to the bottom right of your screen, punch that so that we can give you an update when we're going to go racing next time on the Global Sim Racing Channel. Our next race for the Precision Racing League trucks, however, is going to be at Martinsville, May 6th at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Paperclip will surely bring an interesting battle with these drivers. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on your screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. We hope you've enjoyed joining us tonight as much as we've enjoyed bringing this race to you. We hope to see you back on our channel soon. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.